Ever thought about how wild dating is these days? I lucked out. I met my husband at 18, but if you're in the dating game right now, let me introduce you to The League. The League is a premium dating platform that puts quality before quantity. If you're busy, ambitious, and tired of swiping through an endless stream of filtered faces, then it is perfect for you. A few months ago, I interviewed Amanda Bradford, the founder and CEO of The League, and I had such a fun time talking to her about the app and how unique it is. First up, not just anyone can join. You've got to apply and get accepted, so you'll be part of a highly engaged and safe community of like-minded, goal-oriented people like you. And instead of swiping endlessly, The League sends you personalized daily recommendations of the most compatible matches. It's like having a personal dating assistant. Now, The League isn't for casual flings or social climbers. It's for genuine folks with big dreams, career goals, and a real drive to find a meaningful long-term relationship. If you're ready to ditch dating frustration, download The League and apply today. Message #GoalDigger to your in-app concierge to jump to the front of the line. I love that you are honoring and thinking about and considering the rhythm of your life first, beyond just the rhythm of your work. And I feel like so many people do the rhythm of their work and then they try to fit life in there. And I think most of us have discovered that that just doesn't happen. I'm Jenna Kutcher, your host of the Goal Digger podcast. I escaped the corporate world at the age of 23 with nothing more than a $300 camera from Craigslist and a dream. Now I'm running a 7-figure online business that feels even better than it looks, all from my house in small town Minnesota with my family. Here, we value time as our currency. We mix the woo and the work, and we are in the pursuit of building businesses that give us the freedom to live lives that we love. I've always loved turning big goals into reality, and I'm here to help you do the same. This isn't just a peek behind the curtain. Come along with me and my guests as we tear the whole curtain down. Every week, we tackle practical, no-fluff marketing strategies and host honest discussions on what works and what doesn't. Join me and my expert guests for actionable insights to help you grow your dream business with confidence. Pull up a seat and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and empowered. This is the Goal Digger Podcast. If you are someone who is struggling to convert your audience into paying clients or struggling to feel like your message is actually reaching the people you are creating for, today's coaching session is for you. Claudia Woodford is a self-love and empowerment coach for working moms. She's been running her business for almost 2 years alongside being a full-time nurse with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. She uses her healthcare background to look at clients' lives holistically and works with them to transform all aspects of their lives by teaching them how to love themselves for who they truly are. Yes, I believe she is Superwoman, especially because we have children the same age, and I know what this stage of life feels like. In today's coaching session, we discuss how to convert her audience into paying clients, and I help her with her messaging and her marketing using guiding principles that you can also use to get clear on how it is that you are reaching the people you are creating for. Since Claudia has limited time for her business, we also want to make sure that she's putting her time to its best use so that she can eventually reach her goal to quit her nursing job. The questions about niching down and nailing your messaging can apply no matter what type of business you are running. I promise you, just as she was, you are going to be taking notes while listening to this conversation. If you would like to be featured in a future coaching episode of the Goal Digger podcast, make sure you are inside of our Facebook community. It's the Goal Digger Insiders Facebook group. We've linked it in the episode description and the show notes. There, I will be periodically asking for volunteers to ask me questions, to get on the line with me, get mentored, and help other listeners. And of course, to be on your favorite podcast of all time. So make sure you are inside of our Facebook community, and maybe you and I will hit record together soon. Now, without further ado, let's dive on into my coaching session with Claudia. More to-dos, less time, and an infinite number of tools to keep track of. Goal diggers, do you ever feel like doing business has never felt harder? Well, the good news is you don't need a miracle to hit your goals. You just need HubSpot. Their all-in-one customer platform can make growing your business so much easier. Imagine this: high-quality leads, fast-closing deals, wildly happy customers, and more benchmark-breaking quarters. It's not a miracle, it's HubSpot. Visit HubSpot.com to get started today. That's HubSpot.com. Welcome, goal diggers, to today's coaching session. I am so excited. I have notes. We are ready to rock. Claudia, give me a little look into your life, your business, where you are coming at from today, and then we get to dive into the good stuff.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. So basically, I am 40 years old. I live in England, mum of two. I've been a nurse for 20 years. And as I'm saying all this, I'm like thinking about your episode last week about not introducing ourselves by the things we do. I'm a chatterbox. I love to chat. I love networking and meeting people. And in the beginning of 2022, I had just had Evie in the September before, so she's about 4 months old, and I was suffering with postnatal depression, and I looked into coaching, and I actually using coaching to heal. And then I was like, do you know what? I want to help other mums reclaim their sense of who they are. And I just found it so beautiful myself. So I was like, I want to create this business. So at the moment, I juggle having a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old who knows her mind very well, and running a business, my nursing, where I'm a professional nurse advocate. I support nurses with burnout and work-related stress because we've got the National Health Service in England and it is under significant financial pressure and things. So that's what I do in my work days. And then I've got my coaching business where I support some fantastic ladies with their lives and their businesses and improving their self-love. And life is very busy, which I think is the same for you, with children the same age.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know how you do it all in one day. And maybe that's part of the problem. And I just want to say thank you for being a nurse. Pretty much everybody in my family, except for me, became a nurse. And so I just have so much love. And I also feel so safe when I'm with them because I'm like, you know what to do in an emergency, which I do not. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing a little bit of your story. So why did you want to sign up for a coaching session? And what is the big burning question that you'd like to begin with?
So for me, I really resonate with a lot of the things that you talk about, like I said, about our children being the same age, but also with the ADHD. I'm waiting for a formal diagnosis, but I pretty much meet every single diagnostic question. And I was just wondering about how to figure out which are the most important things to do when you have limited time. And so that I'm putting all my energy into the right things, because sometimes I think I get distracted and I've started like a million projects. And I'm like, okay, but what should I do when I don't have every single hour of every single day to focus on business?
Yeah. So first, from the ADHD standpoint, you are not alone. I was even joking with Drew last night because I saw this meme about how people with ADHD tend to leave like cabinets open because you're like, oh, I'm going to unload the dishwasher. And then like halfway through doing that, you get distracted and like, I need to water the plants. And all of a sudden, like everything's open. And I was just like, see, it's not just a me thing. And so I can very much relate. But I also think that a lot of times we get these like creative urges where things feel urgent, right? Like we have an idea and we don't trust ourselves to remember it. So we need to take action on it right now. And then the next idea comes and we forget about the first one and everything feels half done. And I think that a lot of times that leads to that overwhelm or that like 2 a.m. where your brain is still spinning and you're trying to like will yourself into remembering what you need to do the next day in order to progress. And I also think that can lead to burnout because we often feel like, well, what did I even accomplish today? Because we got a lot of half things done, but we didn't really accomplish a whole. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So many ideas written on pieces of paper that I'm like, and which one first?
Yes. Okay. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you, because I was looking through your questions and I was like, okay, we're going to make this interactive together. And I know you'll work with me on it. My first question is, if you were to like close your eyes and really like get into your body, like what is the one thing that you really want to protect? Like that is most sacred to you in this stage of life that like is the non-negotiable, and it's just one thing. What comes to mind for you?
Absolutely, time with my family. Like, I mean, that is the reason that I wanted this business, to fit around them and to be here and be present. And so they are the reason.
Yeah. I think a lot of people listening can relate to that. And I think that I wanted to start there because it'd be so easy to start with the business and the coaching and also, your career as a nurse. And we could get in the weeds on that, which we will. But I think if we have that clarity of like the real reason for all of it and the real hope behind all of it is to have freedom of time. I think that's going to be the best guiding force moving forward as we try to discern, okay, where does this precious time go? So what do you see yourself doing in a couple years from now? And here's what's so fun about this conversation is, like you said, we literally have kids that are the exact same ages. And so I don't know if you're facing this at all or if it's just me, but I feel like right now we're like in the good weeds, but in a couple years, my kids are going to be in school and it's going to be like a whole different stage. And so I kind of feel on shaky ground because I'm really clear about right now, but I'm also unclear of like, what does that look like when both kids are in school? Like, what is that going to be? Do you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, 100%. So in my head, I have this like ideal week where, I have like a nice gentle start into the week, maybe doing some networking and then like then literally all around the school hours, which isn't actually a huge part of the day. Yeah. Getting to the gym regularly because I love going to like actual classes, like with other people like Zumba and yoga and those kind of things. I have this in my head. I'm like, I'm going to do some exercise, then I jump on some client calls and then like have a CEO day, maybe in the middle of the week, do my podcast. Like that's kind of how I visioned it so that when the kids finish school, I'm there, I'm picking them up, we have fun. I don't have to think, oh, I need to try and squeeze in an Instagram post, just all these little bits that at the moment is a bit like, oh, well, I've got 2 minutes here, so let me do that. I just want it to be like work is work. And then when the kids are home, I'm with them and like we can do fun things together. They love crafting with me. I mean, they love running around like lunatics as well, in the park and things. But like, I want to do those nice things. I don't want to be like, right, no, just wait a minute. Mummy's just looking at this.
Mm-hmm. I 100% relate to that. And I feel like I finally hit that place. And so I say that because it is possible, but it doesn't also just happen. And I think that's what so many of us are like butting up against is like, how do we get there? And it's been so interesting because I love that you are honoring and thinking about and considering the rhythm of your life first, beyond just the rhythm of your work. And I feel like so many people do the rhythm of their work and then they try to fit life in there. And I think most of us have discovered that that just doesn't happen, right? When we use the leftover bits, there's not really a lot left over for the things that are the most important. So my question for you from a career standpoint is, what role does nursing play in this vision moving forward? Because I noticed you didn't necessarily mention it in the ideal week.
Mm-hmm. I think I've been a nurse for 20 years.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the evolution of that. I've really been interested in that, holistic care of people. And I named my business Claudia Wellness because I wanted to focus on the whole body. And to be honest, nursing can be quite stressful because you always see people on their worst day, the worst time of their life. And you do carry that burden. And now that I'm supporting staff rather than patients and such, you really do feel that. And I love when I'm working with my clients, seeing their journey and seeing their transformations and as they're like, it's impacting across their life. And I think that as much as I love nursing, I feel like my future, what I'm being called to at this time in my life is more coaching, right? And that kind of preventative health, I suppose, because you're literally focusing on how we can stop ourselves from getting unwell, whether that's mentally or physically. So for me, it would be to have this business and freedom and that ability to really be present for my children, which I don't feel I'd get if I stayed in the same role.
Let's talk real life for a sec. Okay, those marathon work days where you're hustling from one meeting to the next, and by the time you go to grab a coffee with a client or hug your partner, you're wondering if your deodorant is still going strong? Yeah, We've all been there. Luckily, Lumi Whole Body Deodorant is making sure we never have to worry about BO again. Unlike other deodorants, Lumi uses mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts, giving you up to 72 hours of odor control. Lumi was actually created by an OBGYN who saw how common BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Now, fast forward 6 years, and it has over 300,000 five-star reviews. What I love about Lumi is that it's safe to use anywhere on your body, your pits, feet, under boobs, thigh folds, and even those sensitive areas. As someone who loves to work up a sweat and spends time in the sauna daily, I need something that will keep up with me. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code. And if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off of their starter pack. Use the code GOLDDIGGER for 15% off your first purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's code GOLDDIGGER at LUMIDEODORANT.com. I'll never forget when I got my first online course idea. I was so excited about the content, but I was so worried and overwhelmed with how to create it and where to host it and how do I let my students log in. But then I discovered Kajabi and everything clicked into place. Kajabi is the ultimate all-in-one platform that helps you build awesome online businesses and make steady, predictable revenue. I love it so much, I have been using it for a decade, and it has only gotten better over time. You can take all of your amazing skills, passions, and experiences and transform them into empowering online courses, membership sites, subscription podcasts, fun communities, personalized coaching, and so much more. Kajabi doesn't take a single cent of your revenue. That's right. You get to keep 100% of what you earn because everything is owned and controlled by you. With Kajabi, you get all the tools you need in one spot: detailed analytics, easy ways to get paid, awesome email marketing tools, and customizable website templates. And guess what? You don't even need to have a massive audience to make a sustainable income. Thousands of creators on Kajabi are making 6 and 7 figures with fewer than 50,000 followers. So if you are a one-person show needing a helping hand, Kajabi is your secret weapon. Right now, Kajabi is offering a free 30-day trial to start your business if you go to kajabi.com/goal. That's KAJABI.com/goal. Visit kajabi.com/goal to join the creators and entrepreneurs who have made over $7 billion. My question for you, and we don't have to go into it, but something to consider would just be, have you planned your off-ramp from that part of your life?
I have to a certain extent, but then it feels like it's a bit tricky so at the moment I have a day a week that is purely just for business. And then it's the other little bits that you kind of squeeze in here and ever. And I find that it's quite hard to get momentum. And I think one of the questions that I want to talk to you about is how I refine my message, because I am really passionate about equality. And I hate it when people are excluded from things. I want to be inclusive. And I think part of that has held me back because I initially came out when I started my coaching. Everyone was like, you must niche. I was like, okay, I've got a niche. And then I just felt that actually it wasn't fair, that I knew I could help other people. And I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't be helped because they weren't a mum, or they didn't call themselves mum. They called themselves something else because that's how they identified. And I just really felt bad because I've never deprived people in my nursing. It was you're a patient regardless of what your religion is, what your gender, what your sexual orientation, whatever that is, wherever you're from, I will give you the exact same best care because that's what I want to do. I want to look after you. And so there was this kind of friction between oh, you must niche so people know you're talking to them versus this part of me going, but I don't want people to feel excluded. Yeah. And so I think then I get confused about what I'm actually meant to be saying.
Yes. No, first off, I just feel your heart in it. And I think it's beautiful. And so I think everyone listening to is yeah, I get it. And it's so funny because I was even just thinking about the ideal avatar exercise. And I'm I just don't resonate with that. That's never resonated with me. I always picture like the blue guy in like the film, and I'm like, Avatar, the word just, it doesn't stick. And so one of the things that I was thinking about, especially for you and kind of knowing where you're coming from and what your goal is what's been so helpful for me is I have a friend, Sarah, in my life who like I create my offers around for that one person. And what's amazing is that like when you cast the net, like you will catch people beyond the person you're aiming at, right? So it's like if you think of a bullseye and if you were to drop a net, like there are going to be people on the fringe that are also going to resonate with it. But I think what's happening is that you are being so broad, which is out of a beautiful idea and a beautiful intent. But in that, you're lacking clarity that allows people to have confidence to make a decision on purchasing. Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, what's been so helpful is like when I think about Sarah, it's, you know, she's a mom just like me. She has similar kid ages. She's really healthy. She wants a business, but she wants a life. Like she's built businesses she's hated in the past, but now she wants to build one she loves. Like all these things I can like, and she's a real human. So like, it's so easy instead of like imagining like this random character. So one question that I have for you is, have you ever had a client who you were like, I want 100 more of you, or like, you are the reason why I do this work? Have you had that experience yet?
Yeah, 100%. I have. But I suppose my like hesitation in that is that she was one of my first clients that when I was practicing and doing my coaching certification. And she like herself was like, she was the first person I told about the business idea. And she was like, I'd love to help you. But she wasn't like, she was like, oh, coaching is not really for me. And actually she had a huge transformation. She's like, this is the best thing I've ever done. But I suppose my concern is if my client is like her, she didn't know that coaching was what she needed. She only did it because we were friends. And I was like, trust me, you're going to love it. I suppose that's my worry about.
Okay, so we can get past that though. That doesn't have to stay. What's really interesting is that, and something, you know, I think marketing has both beautiful impacts and also can be used in a terrible way with marketing. But what I think can be beautiful is when you think about this idea of giving people what they think they want, but serving them what they truly need, right? And we often have to do this. I was actually just talking to somebody the other day because I was like, you know, I teach Pinterest and like, I love Pinterest. I think it's an amazing platform. But the reason why I love and teach Pinterest is that people can get results in an hour a week and set it and forget it and get back to their life. Pinterest is the vehicle to what I really want to give people, which is their time back, right? At the precipice of everything that I do, it's like time is our currency. And so it's interesting because oftentimes I can be like, okay, I don't want to talk about Pinterest for the rest of my life. But at the same point, Pinterest is the vehicle for the bigger mission. And so I think oftentimes when we get those like mental roadblocks of like, well, this person didn't even want coaching, they were resistant to it. What is it that they want? And what I think for you is that they want this end result. And regardless of somebody's gender or race or anything like that, end results can be pretty universal, right? Like, I think we all have these things in our life where we imagine, right? Imagine the feeling of feeling free in your body. Imagine what it would be like to be confident in who you are beyond the roles you play. Imagine what it would feel like to wake up feeling energized and excited about your day, right? Like, I'm not putting words into your coaching practice, but like those are pretty universal dreams, right? And so what's interesting is if you've had that client who has had this huge transformation, what you want to get really clear on is like, what was that end result? And is that end result universal, or could it be more universal? And the answer is probably yes. And so how do we get clear on selling people what they think they want? You know, for me, which is like, you know, a marketing strategy that gets you seen and gets you tons of eyeballs. But then in your practice, because you are confident in the transformation you can give, you get to do the magic, right? And so it's like the marketing has to be that end result, that why. So whenever we create any sort of marketing or copy or messaging, we start with the end first. And so it's like, what is this result that is desirable by our ideal client. And they don't need to know the how we're going to get there, right? Like we will give them the breadcrumbs and, they're not just paying for something that they don't understand. But at the same point, they don't need to get lost in the mess of how we get there. They just need to trust that we will get them there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm making notes.
Good. Good.
I need to write this now.
Yeah. What questions does this bring up for you?
So I do have your Pinterest lab, actually. I've started it. We haven't finished it yet. But yeah, so I'm just trying to think about the kind of pins that my initial client at the beginning of the journey might be looking for, and the search terms that she might be kind of putting in without necessarily searching for coaching.
Yes.
As in, like, what place is she in? It's really interesting. And I'm kind of like, oh, I need to go and have a little ponder on that. But yes, I definitely think you're right. I think I got so distracted and focused on the fact that the avatar wasn't just one person, that actually thinking, okay, it's the end result that we're talking about, because that's the thing that is universal, isn't it? That feeling that you are empowered and you are able to take control of your life. It's your life, and you're not being sucked into what other people want and all of the people pleasing and mum guilt and stuff. Actually, you got making those decisions that are right for you, because you will show up so much better for your children and for yourself when you're feeling nurtured.
Yeah. Another thing that just popped into my brain as you were speaking is the power of getting really good at telling your story. Because when we're thinking about wanting to reach a more inclusive audience and keeping that as, a really big part of your values, people connect with story, right? Like we look at traditional, everything has been passed down through generations through stories. And so when you can get really good at telling your own story of transformation, people will automatically see themselves in that story. And so again, when we think about marketing, we don't necessarily have to, imagine this blue avatar and try to, make this imaginary figure into something real. We can focus on the end result, and we can focus on story, and it really shifts the feeling of marketing. And it also shifts the idea of selling, because what I look at marketing as is really good marketing is allowing someone to pre-qualify themselves with confidence. And it's not necessarily convincing. It's allowing someone to have like the autonomy to say, oh, this is me. This is me. I need this. This is the right fit. And I think confident buyers are like the best buyers to work with, because they already see it and they get it, right? And so I think that if you're thinking about this first person that you ever worked with and that you almost had to convince her into it, it puts you in a more defensive space of marketing that I feel like is like a lower frequency to be coming at it from, versus helping people qualify themselves as a buyer who is like, yeah, I know this is the right fit for me and I'm willing to invest in it. And so we can take pieces of that initial client experience where you can maybe be curious about, what was her big pain point? What was the desired end result? Like what really worked well? But I don't want you to stay in that place of you having to convince people, because that doesn't feel good, right? Like it just doesn't feel good within us, but it also isn't necessary to have a successful business, because there will be people who are confidently pre-qualifying themselves as they learn more about your story and as they understand the end result and the path to get there.
Yeah, for sure. I know whenever I have told my story, and so I was in an abusive marriage, and that kind of started my healing journey when I came out of that with a 3-month-old. And it was crazy. I mean, thankfully things have improved so much because of all the healing I've done. But I definitely could weave my story a lot more into my content and things so people know. Yeah.
It's interesting too with our stories, because a lot of times we're all so guilty of this, where it's like, well, I told my story on that one podcast episode, so like, I'm never going to tell it again. Right. Or like, on my about me section, there's 2 paragraphs, so that should suffice. And I will never forget, even when I was writing my book, we were really trying to figure out this balance of like things I had never talked about, never shared about. All of that is inside of the book, but also we need some of the classics. And I remember somebody on my publishing team was like, think about when you go to a concert of your favorite artists, you don't want to hear all their new stuff. You want to hear some of the good stuff, like the classics, the things you were raised on. And I think the same goes for our stories. And so it is something where it's like when you feel empowered to share your story in a way that that connects, it can, again, like do the connecting for you and help do the qualifying for you. But it's also not something that should be considered like a one and done. It needs to be a constant theme, a reminder, a thing. And I think a lot of times we're just like, oh, well, I already talked about this. So like that makes sense. Right. And so I'm excited for you to feel even more empowered in your storytelling, because I think that will actually do a lot of the work for you as well.
Yeah. No, you say right. I literally like the first proper episode of my podcast was my story. And then like you say, the about page. And then I'm like, well, I've talked about that now.
Moving on. And you're like, oh, and it's such a great thing to weave into everything, because when people understand deeper, like what you've been through and what you've overcome and your why, again, it's like it gives them something to tether themselves to. And it shows that what's possible for them as well. So you are being a mirror, and in you hiding what you've had to go through and not necessarily outwardly sharing that transformation consistently, you're not allowing people to envision that same transformation for themselves. And I think that's just such a good reminder for all of us of like, your story matters, and your story is what people are going to remember and connect with. And so share it as often as you possibly can.
That is such a good tip. I've written it about 3 times already.
Great. Okay. What is your next question?
So I suppose going back to what the best thing to focus on is with the whole ADHD million tabs open at one time. So we were talking initially about, my priority is my family. So if you literally were just focusing on one part of your business, what would be the part to focus on?
Okay. So first, I would focus on what the off-ramp looks like for the career. And I wrote a whole chapter about it in my book called The Enough Point, but like just establishing like, if you're not ready to make the leap yet, how can you cut back to as small as you can where you're still supported, you still feel secure, but you're just expanding the amount of time you have on the business. So I would just start there, but we'll kind of move forward from that. The second thing I would be curious about is which resonates more with you right now. Doing like one-on-one transformative experiences that are higher price but lower volume, or creating something once that can serve many that might be a lower price point but a higher volume of customers. Which one feels better for this stage of life? So
I have a course. I did create one, but I don't tell people about it.
Okay.
It is amazing as well, because I know the people that have gone through it have like absolutely loved it, but it's just one of those things that I'm not very good with this whole like, oh, well, I've done that. Okay, now I'm going to move on to something else. So I love the one-on-ones, and I created the course because of like scaling and stuff. And I was like, there are people who won't be able to afford it. And this whole, like, I want to be inclusive. But so it's a self-love academy called Leading Lady, and it's basically works you through that journey of increasing your self-love with some practical tools. And literally, I was like 6 months last year just making it, and then I kind of launched it, did a few little social posts, and then it just sits there looking beautiful by itself.
I will never forget an anniversary trip that Drew and I took years ago where we drove the Pacific Coast Highway from LA to San Francisco. And I was so excited because I was in charge of booking the Airbnbs for the trip. And after looking through all of our options, I found the one. Found this farmhouse where we could rent out a room and wake up and collect our own eggs for breakfast in the morning, feed their alpacas, and play with their goats. When we arrived at this Airbnb, the hosts were there waiting for us with a chilled bottle of wine. They showed us our room and bathroom, and then they gave us a tour of their farm. Now, looking back, that trip planted a seed for us to dream about owning our own rental property and not overcomplicating the process. Since then, we've become real estate lovers and super hosts on Airbnb, and honestly, it is one of my favorite parts of my job. Now, something that people don't realize is that you don't necessarily need an investment property to do this. You can create an Airbnb revenue stream from your own home, or even host a single room in your house. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much much at airbnb.com/host. A few years ago, my LinkedIn profile was dormant, and now I am amazed at the meaningful connections and opportunities on the platform. LinkedIn Ads gives you the power to connect with your ideal customers and create meaningful relationships that drive real results. With 1 billion members, including 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-level executives, LinkedIn gives direct access to decision makers in a respectful environment. With LinkedIn Ads, you get results plain and simple. They've built targeting and measurement tools specifically for B2B. It's no wonder 79% of B2B content marketers say LinkedIn produces the best results for paid media. For business-to-business marketers, LinkedIn is the sharpest blade in the Swiss Army knife of social media. When you think about it, Instagram and Facebook are where people just want to have fun. But LinkedIn users are actively making professional decisions. They're looking to buy, so they're open to business discussions and connections. And also, LinkedIn is super welcoming for direct messages. On Instagram, sending DMs can send off an intruder alert, but people on LinkedIn expect and even appreciate professional outreach. I guarantee there is no better platform to spend your B2B ad budget. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit on your next campaign. Head to linkedin.com/goal to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/goal. Terms and conditions apply. Can I tell you that this is, okay, I can just relate to this on so many levels, but this is such an act of self-sabotage. And I want you to have grace for yourself. But this is also what I believe to be an ADHD trait. And I think this happens across the population, regardless of if you have ADHD, but it's we build the thing and then we're already sick of the thing. And so we move on from the thing. And I have experienced this so much in my life where I say, I want more ease and I want more peace. And then I want to drop a bomb on my business and start from the ground up again. And I recognize that it's in those moments where I actually get the peace and ease, where I feel that unease of sinking into it. And so I try to create more chaos for myself. And it's a tendency that a lot of us carry. My initial thought, and again, and I want per usual to take this through your lens and your life, but my initial thought was, if you could have that lower priced offer of the online course, one, it could replace your nursing income. So it would give you the confidence to get off of that phase of your life and that beautiful piece of your career. But second, it could be a beautiful prerequisite for people to become your one-on-one coaching clients. And why this is amazing is that people then know you, they know your ideology. They've already shown that they're willing to do the work. And so it can be this way of you not having to get on these one-on-one calls and repeat yourself, your principles, your philosophies, your systems. And so I know that you love the one-on-one coaching, but if you start to understand that you will have more bandwidth and time and space for the one-on-one coaching, if you establish something that is more passive and that is more running on autopilot and serving a more inclusive community, then the natural next step once somebody completes that program would be to stay in your ecosystem and work with you one-on-one. What does that feel like for you?
I mean, it feels really good. So I have the option for people to upgrade to one-to-one sessions when they buy it or as they're going through. But I think if they've done that work, it'd be so much better than just coming straight in, not knowing anything. I think you get so much more out of the coaching. And
I think you as a coach also get a whole different foundation to start from, right? I started working with a therapist this last year, and she coaches a lot of high performing female entrepreneurs. So she has her niche, but she had created a course that you had to go through before you started therapy. And it was so amazing because it was okay, now I know where she's coming from, what her values are, the perspectives, what we'll be talking about. And it let us cut the fluff of her having to establish all of that and allowed us to just get into it so much faster. So, I feel a lot of times we are either in one camp or the other where we're I want to go all in online courses, scale that baby up, volume game. Or we're in the, one-on-one, I really want that heart-centered personal approach. But I actually think you have an opportunity to do both. So to answer your question of where you should be putting your time, what I would be focusing on is figuring out how we can autopilot and make the online course so that you're selling even just one a day or, three a week or whatever that would look like to start to give you that confidence. And what's interesting is that you've probably already done a lot of the work to sell it and you used that in the past when you initially launched it. And so you're not starting from zero there. You're actually starting from a foundation. And so, in our business, and it sounds like you've probably been in the ecosystem to kind of see, but we love doing like a free webinar that teaches people the what and the why. And then the course is positioned as the how of like, if you want to take the next steps or if you need help implementing this, here's how to do that. And what's beautiful is we do the live launch once a year, but then we have an amazing recording that has that live energy that then goes into autopilot, right? And so it's running behind the scenes constantly. And it's a really good offer because you're meeting people first with serving them. You're giving them those next invitations. You're helping them pre-qualify themselves along the way. And if they choose to say yes, then they join. And now you have this system kind of running in the background. And then that way, then it would just funnel to the coaching opportunity. And I think a lot of times we almost like want to start at the top of the funnel of like, I just want to meet those niche people, which is kind of where we started in this conversation. Yeah. But I actually think at the heart of your value of being more inclusive, having a free opportunity for people to learn from you and to opt in for, then funneling up to like the lower priced offer and then to the higher priced offer. Again, it gives people the ability to make conscious decisions that suit them the best. And it gives you the ability to kind of cut through some of the fluff and help get those one-on-one coaching students even greater results.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Great. So what do we need to do?
Tell people about it. Just dig out those old social posts. Yeah. I even made do you know what? I even recorded a video about it and I don't think it's ever seen the light of day. I think it's just stuck somewhere in my computer drive amongst the million other projects that I've started.
What do you think it is? Have you told yourself like the belief that I'm just trying to figure out. I feel like I'm like my therapist right now, but have you told yourself that you're incapable of finishing something? Or is there like a belief rooted in not sharing this work that you've done?
There's possibly a thing about me not finishing because I've started so many things. But then also, like I know from the testimonials and the people that have gone through it, that it is really good. But then there's part of me worried about, well, what if other people don't like it? I know that I definitely heard like Denise Duffield Thomas has said like, it's a marker of success, someone wanting a refund. Like that's just how it goes. Like you can't be successful if you don't get to that point. And I don't know what it is. It could be the nursing as well. Like I'm not used to selling me. Mm-hmm. I'm used to just providing a service free of charge. And maybe it's that. Maybe it's about asking people for money for it. Mm-hmm. I think maybe that's the pulled a face there. So that's probably telling you something.
Well, and I would just challenge you to like spend some time with yourself of like getting to the root of it. I think we all can relate. So I think so many women, I mean, I've been in like, rooms filled with women and it's like, who hates selling? And it's like, who hates selling themselves, right? It's easy to sell other people's stuff. It's easier to like tell your friends about like the new lip gloss that will change their lives. But like when you go to talk about your own work, so you're not alone in that. But I also think that there can be some really powerful repositioning of making selling a service, right? Like if people don't buy your thing, what does that look like for them? And maybe you journal on that of like, if somebody doesn't take action, what does that look like? And it gives you more conviction. The second thing I would say is get back into your work. So like a lot of times when we create things like an online course, we forget how good it is, right? Like when we are building, like, especially when we're so passionate, like we are pouring into it, right? My friend Jamie Kern-Lima always says like divine downloads, like it's just like it's coming out of you. You're a channel. And a lot of times we create the thing and then we try to create the marketing around the thing and we forget how good it is. And so we don't sell with conviction because we're questioning, well, was that really that transformative? Was it really that good? And so I would challenge you to get back in your work. But the last thing I would say is that I want for you to consider this new identity as you are a person who follows through. You are following through every single day with your children. You are following through with serving the other nurses. You followed through with your patients. And so it's just in this one area of life that I think we need a new belief of like, I am capable of finishing. And sometimes it takes a lot of resistance. One person on my team, Marissa, she's basically like my VP at this point. We butt heads so bad at the beginning because she would challenge me because I would get this idea and she'd be like, okay, hold on. Yesterday, the idea was this. Are we ditching that idea now and going like, and I would get so angry because I'd be like, no, how do you not see the idea? And now I see what a blessing that was because it was the breaks that I needed to pause. And so one of the things that I've been inviting into my life is like, when I have a new idea, I have a document. It is a safe space to store that idea and not having the urgency around it. Because a lot of times when I don't take immediate action and I pause and I think like, does this really resonate? Like, is this in alignment with what I say I want? When I take that pause, it actually enables me to like really recognize like, okay, that wasn't the idea. Or like, I was just in someone else's energy or, oh, I heard that one podcast and I wanted to do that thing, but that actually doesn't really fit with what I say I want. So I just feel like you do work that changes lives, but you're not going to be able to change lives if you don't learn how to communicate the change you can give to the lives with confidence.
Yeah, definitely. I have a really random question to ask you.
Go ahead.
Have you like done human design?
Yes.
Have you looked into?
I'm a Manny Gen.
So I'm a generator, but I've got an open head.
Okay.
Which means I take inspiration from everywhere.
Everything. I love human. We geek out over human design. Human design has changed our whole lives. Like, so how can you almost ask yourself questions around the inspiration to help kind of contain it in a way that allows you to either take action on it or to pause on it, right? It's like, it's almost like I think of like bowling and you put the bumpers up so that the ball stays down the path for the kids. It's like, how can you put bumpers up in the form of boundaries in your own life where you can recognize like the way my brain works is so beautiful. And yet this part of it right now in this moment is not serving the greater vision that I'm after. Right. And so it's acknowledging, it's not pushing up against it, but it's putting in those boundaries. So it's like now before I go to Marissa of like, I got the best idea in the shower today. I'm like, I'm going to drop this in the dock. You visit it when you're ready. There's no urgency around it. And it shifts the energy exchange around it and also just shifts how you move forward with it. So I love that.
So I was thinking I can definitely make the document and then have a column going, does it relate to selling my course?
Yes. And like have at the top of the document, have the vision, right? What we started with today. What is the real vision for you? And that was being present with your family. Yeah. So then when you hold the ideas up to the magnifying glass of that vision, it gets really easy to say no without regret. And it also will store these ideas for maybe, guess what, a few years from now when your little one is in school or things like that. And I feel like that's where I'm at, where I'm like in a stage of like hitting the brake pedal, trusting that the ideas, the momentum, whatever will still be there if and when I'm ready to go again. And like just releasing. And I feel like that's like the only way you can actually get that expansion of time that I think we're all after.
Because we try and fit so much in, but we don't actually enjoy it because you're not present. Yeah. So actually you should just simplify what you're trying to do. Yeah. Rather than trying to squeeze it all in.
Yeah.
That feels...
I know. I feel lighter. Do you feel lighter? I like actually feel like my chest like released in a beautiful way. And I think I'm just excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for your clients. I'm excited for clarity. And I'm also excited for your marketing. And I know that sounds so trivial, but I feel like we've uncovered a way to do it in a way that really serves that deep, beautiful mission of being inclusive, but connecting a little bit more deeply to like, what do people want? What is my story that they can connect with? And how can I help them enable whoever it is to pre-qualify themselves as a fit for this transformation? Transformation is universal. People either want it or they don't, and they have clarity around that. And so it's not our job to convince. It's our job to help qualify. And I think that that can really change everything. Where can everybody find out more about you and what you do and take your course and get your one-on-one coaching and listen to your podcast? Give us all of the places.
So I'm on Instagram at Claudia_Sabina_wellness. And my podcast is called Empowered by Claudia on all podcast listening places. And my website is www.claudiasabinawellness.com. And I'm on Facebook, Claudia Sabina Wellness, all one word. And I have a little Facebook group. You're more than welcome to join as well. And I'm also on Pinterest. I don't have many followers yet, but yeah, so again, Claudia Sabina Wellness, and that's my name. I deliberately chose that name as my business because I was reclaiming it, because I spent my life hiding from it because everyone always pronounced it wrong. And I was like, no, actually, I'm going to call my business my name. Well, my surname's not Wellness, but because I want to take it back and I want it to be me, and I want to not hide anymore. And actually, no, this is me. This is who I am. Yeah. And wellness is the holistic part. So
thank you so much for being brave and bold and coming on the podcast in this way. I know this is going to help so many people, and I just can't wait to see where you go.
Oh, thank you so much. I really loved this.
Does anyone else just feel lighter? Maybe just like a little bit of levity after that coaching session? I know I do. And one thing that I think is so powerful is every time I do these, I am also reminded of what I need to be doing as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, as a business owner, as a mother even. And I just feel like it is so beautiful to have these opportunities to kind of hold the mirror up to what I believe to be true, but also what I believe to be universally true for all of us in what is actually possible and what matters the most and how we can make the greatest impact in our lifetimes. And I loved this episode. If you're not yet, make sure you are inside of our Facebook community. Once a month, we drop a prompt to get a guest on to be coached on air. And I am just so grateful for all of you listeners who have not only applied, but also who have been brave enough to come on and ask your big questions to help the collective listeners of this show. Thank you so much for hanging out today. I hope you love this episode. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the show. And if you have a minute, could you leave a review? It means so much to me and my team that helps create all of this for you. And of course, until next time, keep on digging your biggest goals. Thanks for pulling up a seat for another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. I hope today's episode fueled you with inspiration, gave you information that you can turn into action, and realigned you with your true north in life and business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, head on over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for today's show notes, discount codes for our sponsors, freebies to fuel your results, and so much more. And if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a future show. We'll see you next time, Goal Diggers.